Yeah, so it's called Reaching Out Beyond the Chrome. It's going to autofocus. We're going to talk about basically how web applications have developed maybe a little bit past the browser, particularly in enterprise environments. So the problem, the web has become more than just content. You know, we've been building websites and, you know, tourism websites, whatever websites we build, and we build web applications, which are more than just, you know, view some content, maybe click a button, go somewhere else. We have now full applications. It's not, they've evolved to the point where we're using libraries like React.js, where we expect them to be really rich. We don't expect the page to go white for 10 seconds whilst it goes and gets content and comes back. You know, we're building something that's much, much bigger. But there's some applications, here at HRS, we actually have some of these problems. We need to kind of go past the browser. Wouldn't it be great if we could talk to a USB device that's plugged into your machine? What about if we could contact, I don't know, some third-party hardware outside? Now previously, if we want to do this, really only the OS is trusted to do this. You know, it's up to Windows or your Linux distribution to say, actually, here's what gets access to your smart card reader, or example, for that sort of stuff. So existing solutions we had, you know, ActiveX, I'm not sure how many people have built ActiveX stuff, but it hurts every time I had to do it. And WSD controls and all those sorts of big wins. Java applets, which we all know just makes computers run horribly slow, but they solve the problem. They're more cross-browser. But in all of those two things there, we know that security is hard. They've all died a death because they have major security issues. You get Patch Tuesday, which is trying to close all these exploits, through Flash as well. You can add it all to that little list. So we all know security is hard, so browsers should block all that stuff. The other way you can talk to hardware or talk to a local machine is with a loopback service. And so you end up installing something on your machine that runs a little web host, and then your website talks to that. It basically, your website says localhost port, whatever, which is actually what Spotify does. When you use the Spotify web helper, you know, when you can click links within your web browser, it starts your Spotify playing music. It's actually doing that with the web host. So when you're looking at installed services and installed bits, they've actually got a little binding, which is quite clever. Rather than them having to go up to the cloud and go down all the time, they can say, if it's installed, we can loop back, which is quite clever. But it's not very cross-platform. So we have a new hope. WebUSB. So I've got the GitHub link if you feel like reading the specification. It's hard work. But essentially, some clever guys from Google, or I think the clever guys from Google, are saying, why don't we expose this via JavaScript? Why don't we have an API? So you could say navigator.usb.print all the things, or whatever you want. You know, speak to devices, printers, whatever. So the expected draft now, it's actually been in draft for quite a long time. But it is making traction. It's implemented in Chrome, it works on Linux, Windows, Mac OS, and even if you've got an Android phone and you run on Chrome as a browser, you wouldn't be, you can use WebUSB. So if you wanted to plug crazy USB devices into your phone, be it sound cards, be it whatever, you can get access to it via the browser, which makes me pretty darn scary. So I'm thinking this is a big security thing. I'm not sure about the GIF now I'm looking at this angle. But it's okay, it really is. It has been designed to be secure, unlike that GIF it seems. Your web applications need to be HTTPS. So Google are massively about make it secure, make it secure. So even to try to use this API, you've got to have a secure site. You can't chuck it on a non-secure site. Unless you're doing dev testing, which localhost is allowed to use it, which is good. Users have to interact with it. Now this got me quite a few times when I was trying to use the demos. When anyone comes up and shows some stuff, I have to ask you in a minute because you need to talk to it. So if you just load a web page, you can't start talking to all the USB devices until a user allows you to. So it's not like some malicious script from an advert, because we all know they all come from ads, will just come in and do some crazy stuff and turn on your webcam and do whatever. It's not allowed to. That's when I've written that. But it's secure, so it's there. So you have to click say, you have to do something to say, yeah, you're good to go. But also the issue is, imagine if I'm PayPal, imagine if I'm a banking app. I don't want some random script, if it's somehow got loaded securely, to interact with USB devices. Maybe someone's plugged in one of those keypad generators or chip and pin device or whatever. You don't want anybody accessing that. So for secure pages, you actually can put a header, there's a meta tag in your header, that tells Chrome or other supporting browsers, don't even try to load the USB protocol here. This is too secure, we don't want to touch it, which is quite powerful. So at this point, I'm like, carry on, it feels secure, let's keep going. Let's just embrace that for a minute. Excellent times. But doesn't this sound complicated? Well, kind of is actually, which is why I'm going to pass on the demo to somebody else, because it's above my baby. The basic API is really quite simple. You say navigator.usb, you could say get all devices, you could say, oh, here's some devices, make sure they've got a product name of, I don't know, fingerprint scanner or something along those lines, whatever you want. And then you can get access to those devices, you connect to them, and at that point, you've just got a raw socket to that USB device. And you can do anything you want if you understand C++ and like byte arrays and all that sort of stuff. So it's quite low level. Now, this is where we're going to do a demo. Hopefully, things are going to work. So Leon is going to come up. He has been working on this, which has been quite cool. And I'm going to hopefully project some stuff. So, or not, because I suck at web. Okay, so Leon, when you explain what we've got and we'll plug stuff in as we go.
Right. This is just like a basic fingerprint app. It's like a basis for scanning the fingerprint, then scanning the second fingerprint and storing them at the bottom of the page. It's just an output log on the left. And this is what it looks like when you first connect. If we plug this in...
I'll be your assistant, you can plug stuff in. Okay, you got it. There we go.
Connected to it. And that's only because we've already allowed this on it once.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we'd have to make a fresh connection. You have to click on that button there. It has to be user activated. It cannot be automatic. The user has to click a button on your page. They have to accept the browser dialog to be able to connect. And now this USB device, you've noticed on it just plugged in. It's a USB device directly on the page. If
there we go.
And now it's reading directly from this fingerprint scanner, and you can actually see it's actually picking up my fingerprint there. And if I press and hold, reads it.
It's got it.
And now it's read that fingerprint, and I can do it again. See, and you can see it's actually drawing this directly from the USB device. And there you go. Oh, that's asking me to remove from.
Yeah, so we've got some little information bits, but for raw powered areas, previously we have to install things on client machines. We have to install software, drivers, we've got to support them when someone's laptop blocks it, loads of pain. So the idea is, can we bring that hardware into it, which is excellent. Thank you. So Leon did all the hard work on that, which was really excellent. So yeah, it's super powerful. And when I first saw it, and Adam and a few others, we were blown away by going, wow, this is excellent. So it's super powerful. So Dan actually mentioned WebAssembly earlier. So I mentioned this is really low level stuff. You connect to the socket and you've got to send basically commands. And they're bytes, aren't they, Leon? You just send here's the byte for capture, here's the byte for its finger present, or whatever your fingerprint device is, which kind of sucks. Probably a lot of us write much higher up the stack. We're used to using SDKs and libraries and all that sort of stuff. Only crazy people go really low level. So I project, and I would probably say in the future, I can see this happening. This is where WebAssembly is going to help us. All these providers, you know, of the manufacturer of this device, manufacturer of other devices, have SDKs where you can use them in C++, C#, whatever you want. But what we can do with WebAssembly is we can take those SDKs, compile them in to WebAssembly format, and then from our JavaScript, we will be able to say, whatever my fingerprint device dot scan finger, and that will be that from the web. We'll be using the underlying technology of USB and WebUSB, but we'll be able to build it up, which is pretty damn cool, which I hope you agree. I've got to use this, otherwise it doesn't connect. You know what it is, it's going to switch tabs. So, wait, there's more, please don't go yet. I know Sean's desperate to go because he wants to go for footy, but there is just a little bit more. So I didn't really want to kind of be upstaged by Leon's demo, I'll be honest, this is where this has come from. So I was thinking of a world where there were no wires. You can take your USB, take away the wires. Can you think of like Minority Report, isn't it, when it kind of takes away the screen, that's what's left. So there's actually another specification, WebBluetooth. It's like WebUSB, but it's Bluetooth. The security permissions, they're all exactly the same. The API is very, very similar. At which point, when I read this, there we go, mind blown. I was like, I can talk to Bluetooth devices from the web. Sure, I can do bad stuff with this. And over the weekend, I had a go. But I wasn't that successful, I'll be honest. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch this to be a duplicate. Or not duplicate, I'm going to duplicate. Computer says yes. Of course, yeah, do that. So here we go. So I've got some really bad HTML. I'm not going to go into the code quality here. No one has code reviewed this. There aren't really any comments. The only comments are there, or what I copied from Stack Overflow. I'll be 100% honest where this code is. What I really want to do is hopefully run it and have it work. So this is going to be cool. Okay, so Web Bluetooth. Who here has got Bluetooth enabled on their phones currently? Who here is feeling slightly risky what I'm going to do? So I'm going to find some Bluetooth devices, and well, this is Chrome polling and doing some crazy stuff. Who has an HTC device? Shall I connect it? Shall I do some pairing? Can I pull some files across? If I wrote it, yes I could, I'm not going to, so don't worry. But I'm just clicking a button, and it's hit the OS and doing lots of Bluetooth stuff. Now, I'm going to draw attention to this down here, WebBluetooth Polyfill. So, if you're running Chrome on Android, Chrome on macOS, Chrome on Linux, Chrome pretty much anywhere, it works. But if you're a Windows developer, thank you Andrew, it doesn't yet work in Windows 10 because they changed the API. So it works in Windows 8, which no one has and no one loves. But Windows 10 says no. But there is a polyfill, so we can get access to it. So we can do some cool stuff here. So what I wanted to show was, I've got some rubbish device here which I was hoping was going to flash the LED. I really hoped it was going to work, but the day was against me. So what I have got is I can find out my battery level. Now it's going to ask me to pair, and it just appeared, so come on, pair. See my watch, see it. And when we get demos, we always realise it's better to bring children than to try to do demos, I tell you. What I would normally do here, first time ever, this has not worked, is it would show me my MetaWare device, which is epic, I should say, and it would tell me how much, oh there we go, it's probably because there's so many Bluetooth devices in the room, it's not working. So what normally happens with screenshots is it says MetaWare there, which it did appear a minute ago, so who knows where it's gone. You click it, and after 5 seconds, it shows you the battery percentage on my phone, which, there we go, look at that. Look at that, you've been in my demos before. There we go, 79% battery level. But it's simple, it's naive, but the power of this is much more. We constantly live in a world where we have to go to native applications, we've got to write phone native applications to do stuff. We need to write desktop applications. But actually, we're not very far away. I predict a year maybe until it's properly mainstream, that from your web applications you can go out and talk to location devices, Bluetooth beacons for example, or you could connect to, I don't know, wherever else you've got lying around, and it will just work, which I think is pretty cool so far. So I'm going to just flip back to the slides, and then hopefully amazing things like that. It's not resumed, but we'll keep it small. So yeah, WebUSB and WebBluetooth aren't fully available yet. They're in the spec stage. They do work in Chrome most of the time. Okay, WebBluetooth is probably a little bit more sketchy on Windows, but actually everywhere else is pretty darn solid. So I would suggest keeping an eye on it, because there's always ways, and always, people suddenly jump on ideas, start making loads of money or come out with stuff. When apps first came out, for example, everyone's suddenly connected to everything else. So with the web, we're going to be hopefully on that train. So finally, any questions?
Is there any permissions in like apps now? Like, can I access your microphone? Can I access your contacts?
The permission is like when you do this, when it says I want to pair. That's its permission.
That's it. Then that is
So you can say cancel, that's it, it's off, and you get a I couldn't connect, or you accept it. Now it does ask you every time you connect. So note, particularly with the Bluetooth, with USB, as we showed in the demo, it remembers and it always knows you accepted it.
But on the USB one, it remembers for that website, for that
device.
And it will not connect to any other website unless you give it permission again for the next website.
So, I mean, it's still quite a lot of faith put in it, isn't it?
Yeah. Now you do get a little icon. I don't know if it does it in the Bluetoothy one, so we'll try it again. Now on the other demo, which I might still have open, I do. You might just see a little bit of a USB icon up here. So you know how you get the icon for this tab is playing audio? They are showing you a little icon. But I'll be honest, who really looks at? People don't even look at for flipping SSL certificates, let alone one of those things. So I think the permission model probably needs a bit more work. It would, they're trying to entrust it by saying you must have an SSL certificate because they at the time before, but it's still a fair bit of work to get an SSL certificate. But it's not in there now. It should be let's encrypt. It should be easy. So there probably does need to be a little bit more tweaking of how this is going to be obvious. I would quite like it that it popped open, or at least says, do you know this has been connected for X amount of time? That would be quite a nice improvement. We've done it with the web cameras, when you can call web cameras directly now via Chrome. Super powerful, but unless you notice the light when the camera is running, if that tab is still open doing its stuff, it's not disconnected properly, but you navigated on, it's still streaming, which is probably still, we've not fixed cameras yet, let alone other USB devices. Also, hardware manufacturers kind of need to opt into this. So we've tried to do this demo on a few different devices, I'll be honest, and most of them saying no. So smart card readers, the drivers by default go, no, you're not accessible. It's just not going, unless you install an open source driver that basically disables the security bit and then carries on. Some fingerprint devices, they're also in the place where like, well, we don't want to expose the normal USB, we're trying to be more secure, so we don't. So I think it's going to be there's going to be specific applications for this technology. It's probably not going to be for everything. What is quite weird with the USB one is, it does show your keyboard and mouse, for example, as devices running in USB without a filter. But you try to connect it to it, and it just says, no, you can't do that. I think obviously you couldn't do that because if Chrome had access to your keyboard, what you were using, it happens next. So I'm thinking, why do they even appear in that list? Just filter them out. What's the point? So yeah, it just it's worked to happen in security definitely. Any other questions? There was a race then between Sean and Adam. I'm going to go with Sean because he looks more comfortable.
Thanks, Sean.
Yes, who's the boss?
Given what you said at the start of this around it's relatively new,
Yeah.
do you think using this in the commercial space is maybe a bit early days in case they do discontinue it? He says as a really
I know why you say that. It's a risk, I'll be honest. Google particularly are well known for trying new APIs and then killing them. They've done it. They've done it with Speedy, wasn't it? They did the stuff where it evolved and became HTTP2. They've done it with a few APIs. Now the fact that this one has been going for a few years and not happened yet makes me think, yeah, maybe this one's more stable, but it's not there yet. I would say, using my know what I know and have, it depends on your dev effort, doesn't it? If you're going to spend X amount of time to develop it, but you can win loads of customers because you walk up with a phone, plug in the USB device, and they're in, excellent. But then, in a year's time, you might have to change it because the API is now fully ratified. That's probably an acceptable risk. I know loads of companies where they adopted the earlier technologies, it just meant they were ahead of the game. So when it did become fully released, they had their version on day one. They were released 6 months later, we now support this and the competitor already got there. That's how I'd potentially say, considering how much works so far, I guess. Now, my concern is that with the USB one particularly, it's only in Chrome. Where the Bluetooth one, Edge have got it as yeah, we're probably going to do this, but we've not started it yet. I think Firefox have started support, and Safari have even started support, which is crazy. Safari never adopts anything in this these days. So yeah, it's quite interesting. Okay, Sean, do you want to ask that before?
I think I kind of answered it then, but it was Is this part of like an ongoing W3C spec going
Yes.
forwards?
Yeah, very much.
It's not just like a old thing.
Yeah, the spec, which is super exciting, I'm going to show it because... What slide was the spec? It was that long ago. There we go. Basically, they have a spec here. And it's one of the standard specs. It's not something where it's just on Google. So if you were to do let's do some live flipping Googling, this could never go wrong. So if I search for WebUSB, search graph. So basically Google are there at the top, but you can see the standard is there, which I'm in a separate tab. And yeah, I've been working on it, although only some bits in test steps. So 4 months ago you did some demos and done some stuff, but it's definitely not got the same traction as WebBluetooth has. Where on this one you can get into, they got loads of demos and loads of stuff. So, they've got tons of stuff in there. So that's so exciting. Leon Wait loves all this stuff. He loves specs and ratifying stuff. Me, not so much. So yeah, it's coming. It's all there. Andrew, you had something?
So obviously Windows doesn't support it Chrome, which everyone else does.
It is coming though, yeah.
Well, does that mean that all of the OS support is down to the OS makers? And in that case, does that mean that you're going to be dealing with one thing in Mac OS, one thing in probably Unix systems, and one thing in Microsoft?
Yeah, so it's only an abstraction. You're correct, 100% correct in an abstraction. So they call into the native hooks appropriately. They're quite fortunate that the OS X, Linux, it's pretty much all Unixy. It's pretty much all the same libraries, pretty much. There's a few nuances, but they're mostly there. Whereas obviously Windows is very different, and that is actually a genuine concern that things are slightly different. And actually, we've discovered that we can run our demo on Windows, and it's perfect to run on Chrome on an Android browser. It kind of starts, and then just randomly wobbles and gives up. Now we've only spent a small amount of time with it, so yeah, unfortunately, it's like any cross-platform development. You pretty much never write it once, run everywhere. You've always got to do little tweaks per platform. I would love to see a project where I wouldn't have to do that, but it's not going to happen. Not even on Node. It's all abstract away.
Pretty sure Mike, how does the Polyfill work then, if it needs things in the browser?
So with WebBluetooth, okay, so this actually is something that might come up on a later talk, but it's pretty cool. So Chrome supports something called native messaging, which is like super low level. So basically it allows you to have a C++ service effectively running on your machine, and you can say, expose this to a Chrome plugin, an extension, and then that basically polyfills in.
So it's not just like a JavaScript polyfill? Right, okay.
No, unfortunately not. It's a Chrome extension, and you have to install some stuff and do some developer key magic to get it working. So I would, for example, say, let's use WebBluetooth on our clients to make them install the stuff because it sketches out. But actually what it does underneath is it just calls the correct Windows APIs. So really why that's not being contributed back to Chrome yet, I'm a bit confused, but it's probably a two-man team trying to do 50 billion other things, open source is like that, isn't it? So, yeah, we've got to pay for things, don't we, apparently. See someone says, oh, Ben.
So you saying before, like, the talking to the USB device is really low level?
Yeah.
Has anyone been writing abstractions, or is that kind of like per device or per device type? Or?
It's probably, it's going to be per device type because every USB device works immensely differently. I was going to try and find where I stuck some of that code so you can easily see it. Basically, it's, you need to know the device inside out, which is why I think the WebAssembly stuff is going to, it's compiled and the WebAssembly side will remove that issue because you'll be able to get your platform provider to say, I need a WebAssembly version of that. And once it's taken off and established, a fair number of manufacturers will do that if they want to keep it used. It's the same as, in the mobile world, so many things don't have abstractions and wrappers until the platform takes off and then everybody's chucking their libraries around. So, Andrew?
Yeah, on the Bluetooth thing?
Yeah.
Obviously, one Bluetooth support like that's going to be really easy. What about USB devices? because they always work differently, will that not cause an issue with Microsoft drivers and Linux drivers? And
Yeah, which is why the USB spec doesn't use anything via the driver. It connects directly to the low level socket. So you don't have to deal with any of Windows randomness. It just creates your handle to that device, gives you a socket and says, do whatever you want. So you're not going to get into the world of, or you shouldn't, I'm never going to say never, frankly, that the Windows driver works differently than the Linux driver, so power save mode works differently, or something along those lines. We shouldn't get that, but yeah.
also, you can get what spec USB port it is, because obviously USB-C supports completely different stuff than USA.
Yeah, that's a good question actually. Yeah, I don't know.
You do get quite a lot of information about what the device is, and you get certain random string and you can access basic information.
Yeah, on this one, this is some information that Leon was talking about, hopefully. You'll be able to see what I'm doing. So we get back, as if, it's a Futuronic scanner. They have so what we didn't cover, because it's quite low level, is to connect devices, you need to know their vendor ID and product ID, which is just baked into the hardware. So you can use Windows Device Manager, use a driver and pull it out, or there's like a web archive with all this sort of stuff in. So it's not easy. If you're going to be implementing it, you probably are going to be speaking to the manufacturer of the device and hopefully have that sort of relationship to be able to request more for it and get things changed. We're quite fortunate that this device is fairly well supported. So we got lucky with it, I would say, for today's technology.
So really you're talking about making a solution, selling the solution with devices included, instead of like making a website that can do better things for everybody.
Yeah. Now, there are some, Bluetooth is more interesting because there are some specs. So battery level is a standard service. So that's how I've got that working so easily. Easily is a big word. Because this actually has like LEDs and it can take gyroscopes. And I was hoping just to chuck it all up and it's all going to be flipping unicorns and magic. But actually using a custom API that I can't access, they do have a JavaScript API that I can use with WebBluetooth. It was all online, but the steps I had to go through to include everything to compile it, it's just like, this is not making it look easy. So I think what you're going to find is there are going to be a few common services, battery, there's a few others that are dotted around, that anyone could use, but yeah, mainly you're going to be saying, I support these types of devices that expose that sort of functionality. Which, for likes of fitness trackers, which everyone seems to love and do stuff with, makes a lot of sense. Accelerometers or accelerometers. That's clear enough. Anything else? Yay. Cool.